Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop. And I was at Harbor Freight today, and for 35 bucks I saw this industrial air filter, and I do have my 80-gallon air compressor. I already rolled it in the back shop here, and the air compressor currently has two regulated connections on it, and then on the side of the compressor it does have an unregulated connection that I just put an elbow and a quick connect in it to block it off so I could use it. So I was thinking about it, and I think that regulator would be good somewhere, I don't know, on the wall, like right here next to the air compressor, with a hose reel on it, and then I can stop stacking the hose on the air compressor. So let's get this thing open and see what it looks like. All right, let's get inside this thing here. So right on the top here, got the directions. Looks like some pretty standard stuff. Oh, that's a nice parts diagram. Look at that some more later. So here it is. The T-handle for the regulator. Look at that, bent right out of the box. Then we've got, holy moly, that thing's heavy. Wow, that's wow, that thing is quite heavy. I mean, oh, listen to that thing. Not bad looking. Oof. Boy, so the first thing I noticed right off the bat, there's no thread seal or thread tape on any of the connections for the pressure gauge, nothing on the ball valve, nothing on the elbow or the piping here for the regulator. So, but there is like some sort of, I don't know if you can see that real well, some sort of glue that's inside there. Oh, look at that. It even looks like that. Looks like this elbow might be cross-threaded onto this pipe here. Ugh. Huh, wonder how well that's gonna seal. Let's open it up and look inside the thing. The cap on the end, that's nice. Cap's got a O-ring built right on it. You can see some of that focus. You can see some of that glue that I was telling you about on the inside there. Huh. Huh, that's nice. A computer cap or something, and they've got the O-ring. It's not, oh yeah, O-ring machined right into the cap. That's not bad. Jeez, listen to that thing. Holy moly, that is a can. Huh. Wow. And then the inside, looks like we got just a standard filter on the inside there, and then the cup. So, not the, I guess not the worst I've ever seen. For 35 bucks, I'll give it a try. So we'll get this thing back together and we'll start figuring out how to get this on the wall. It's got make sure I got all the fittings to hook it to the air compressor here. So, all right. So on second thought here, I've decided I'm going to go through and put some thread tape on everything that I can. Oh shit, that glue is tight. Holy moly. Wow, that is some different stuff. I've never quite seen anything like that. It is rock hard and just flakes right out of the threads. So I'm gonna go ahead and put tape on all of this. Let's see if we can get this. Oh man, that's tight. Ooh, yep, that's tight. That ain't coming off. We'll have to... Man, look, I can't... Something in there. Yeah. Ugh. I think I'm gonna have to get a pipe wrench on that to get that off. Well, after a lot of brute force, I finally got that regulator off. And if you look inside there, I don't know what the heck that stuff is. If some of you guys know what that is, let me know. But it is corroded the aluminum in there. And if you look really closely inside there, if I can get some light, there's a lot of that gunk and garbage inside there. I mean, I'm sure that it would get picked up by the filter, but I still just don't like that. The pipe on the elbow for the regulator, you can see that was definitely cross-threaded on there, but this thing is extremely tight, so I'm gonna have to go put it in the vise to break that free. So I took the can apart, and you can just see all of the crud on the shaft here, and then looking inside the little the plate that the air filter sits on, and just all the goo and nasty over all the pieces. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up and put it together the way it should be put together. I got all the pieces, brass pieces, to connect it up to the air compressor and connect it up to the air reel. I finally got the elbow off of that regulator, and if you look at that, just that garbage, whatever that glue is they put on there is just terrible. I mean, it was stuck so tight, you can see I just mashed the threads trying to get it off. I had to put it in the vise, and if you look inside the regulator, you can just see that whatever the hell that is just leaves goo everywhere. And I'm sure that those bits and pieces going inside the regulator are going to help it regulate pressure. So I'm going to get all this cleaned up and start putting it all back together the way it should be put together. It's time to start putting the thread tape onto the fitting. So it may seem painfully obvious how you just wrap the threads with thread tape and away you go, but there is a method that you want to follow, and that the NPT fittings are going to be right-hand threads, so righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and you want to wrap the tape on there in such a manner that when you're threading the fitting in, that the tape is getting tighter and not trying to unravel the tape as you screw it into the fitting. These are National Pipe Thread and National Pipe Thread fittings. So these have a slight taper to them. So you don't need a lot of pipe tape to seal the joint. The tapered fitting itself is going to do a lot of the sealing. the tape is going to help lubricate the threads as you put it in, and then seal any of the minor imperfections that are in the threads from when the threads were cut into whatever fitting it is. So just screw that in, and one more turn on it. There we go, nice and straight. Back up just a bit. Perfect. All right, there it is. I don't know about you guys, but I think the nice brass fittings with all the thread tape make it look a whole lot better than it was. So now we'll figure out how to mount this on the wall. Oh, by the way, while I was out getting the fittings, I did attempt to drain my air compressor of water, and the drain on the bottom was just corroded and nasty. Let's see that maybe a little better. And so I decided to get some new fittings and a couple of double isolation valves on the bottom so that I can drain it a little more easily. All right, I put the valve on the side here, and I think that looks a whole lot better than it did before. And then underneath the compressor, lit a couple of valves and then the pipe to blow it down and get all the water out of it. So the plan is I want to put the regulator like right here, and then I'll put the air hose, I don't know about there. That way it's not going to interfere with the plugs, but also I can still get the air compressor out if I need to. So I will show you how we're going to do that. So I have some leftover scrap 2x4s from the bench build, and the regulator has a mount on the back to put a lag bolt through, and I don't want to set this little pad right against the sheetrock with a lag bolt on it, because I figure as it gets moved around and jostled, it'll just wreck the sheetrock and get loose on the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of 2x4 and screw that to one of the wall studs, and then use the 5/16 lag bolt right into the wood to hold it. And then the reel has a same thing on the back here, so I'll cut a piece of wood to screw to the wall stud, and then lag bolt this to the 2x4 on the wall, and that should protect the sheetrock and stop it from getting loose over time as I use the air reel. When I put the regulator and air reel on the wall, I don't want the air reel to interfere with this plug, so I'll make sure it's the top of it's below the plug. I know that there's a stud here, and I know that there's a stud over here, so I'll put the air regulator over here, the air reel right here, and then that should still give me room to get the air compressor out if I need to without taking everything off the wall. So we'll just find the stud about right there, and get the piece of wood up on the wall. So I think about right there should be good. Shit. Piece of garbage. We'll get this fixed. Alright, so I saved you the boringness of putting the lag bolts in. They're not in the most convenient spots to put a power tool to, so it's just by hand all the way in. So I've got the reel connected, I've got the air turned off, and I got the air turned off on the compressor. So let's slowly put some air to this thing and see what happens. We got an air leak somewhere. Let's dial this down and see. Way down. Huh. Let's see where that leak is. I think I found it already. Where's my soapy water? Ooh, got air leaks there. That looks pretty good. And it's all on the back there. So we'll get this thing off and tighten everything up. I'll check everything else while it's here. Oh, yeah, that's gotta be tight in there. All right, back to it. Well, if there's a moral to this story, maybe it's use a whole bunch more thread tape than you'd ever think of using on fittings. All the fittings that were leaking were the ones that were right on the unit itself. So I've got it pretty, took everything apart, and put more thread tape on there, and everything looks good now. So now I'll lag bolt this thing back on the wall. So it seems to be, a regulator seems to be regulating pretty nicely. I can't complain about that. So I did notice though that when I was fiddling with it earlier to depressurize it, oh, that worked. Last time I tried to depressurize it with this little screw and I couldn't do it. So, well, now she works. Guess all it needed was a little bit of exercising. So I will get this thing all put back together on the airline and clean it up and show you what the final product looks like. Well, there it is. We finally got all the leaks sorted out and hooked up the impact. So it doesn't do too bad. So I think it turned out well. It's going to work good for the shop. So I think that is it for this video. So as always, if you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and we'll see you on the next project.